welcome to another episode of Rob Wall Official, and I'm here today with a very special guest, a guest I've been following for many years. His ministry and works inspired me. He's a world-renowned speaker. I'm not going to get all of these in one go as I introduce him, but he's a world-renowned speaker, New York Times best-selling author. He's a coach, he's an entrepreneur, he's an evangelist, he's a husband, he's a father. I have Nick Vujicic here today. Nick, great to have you on the show. How are you?
Rob, pleasure to be here. I'm doing fabulous. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Wonderful to reconnect with you.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And, you know, a lot has happened since I last interviewed you. I think when we last spoke, the pandemic had just hit. How have the last couple of years been for you on a personal level? What have been the opportunities? What have been the challenges as we've navigated this very strange season?
Definitely strange. Look, I just turned 39 years old, and at age 19 was when I was first ordained as a minister of the gospel, going to 74 countries, 3,500 stages, 2,500 plane rides, and then for all of that to go to zero real quick. Our nonprofit organization, Life Without Limbs, we were really waiting to see, okay, during the whole 2020 year, what does this really look like? And it did nothing but help us to triple down on digital communication with our partners, first through the ministry, Christian Vision, where we actually now do Google ads when people type in suicide, depression, God, faith. They get videos of me that then lead to other videos to preach the gospel. It's just exciting. Japan is one of our nations where I don't even have to go on a plane to actually reach thousands of people in a day, or even while I'm sleeping, people are giving their life to Jesus Christ and getting followed up with the local church. So as far as a ministry-wise concern, we're thankful for our partners that help us and the donors that support us to be able to reset healthily. We now moved out of also California, a state that I lived in for 17 years. Now we are in Texas, Dallas. Very thankful for the move. And as far as entrepreneurially and motivational speaking circuits going to zero, I tried the podcast deal, trying to go into the marketplace corporate sector motivational coaching world on a podcast median. It did not work as well as we had thought. And so we're going back to some old dreams, Rob, 14-year-old dreams. Many people don't know that in 2011, I knew that I had a global reach digitally, 14 million social media fans, of which many don't speak English. So I actually uploaded in 2011, 10 years ago, get this, Rob, 36 YouTube channels, 36 Facebook channels for each language. 36 languages actually reach 85% of the world. And then on the ninth day, YouTube shut me down. And so we are now resetting in a way, resetting in a way that's very monumental digitally, a revolution of a technology and a platform, Nick V Network, wherein I'm not algorithm shadow banned or at the risk of being canceled on social media platforms out there. And lastly, in March 2019, you asked me the last 2 years. The last 2 years have been so heavy for me, Rob. I've needed counseling.
I bet.
I went through counseling in January, February of 2021. 2020 was messy, but it was a 2-year sequential attack of hell against me and my family. Since March 2019's prayer that me and my wife prayed together, God, if you want to use this as a megaphone for the battlefield for life, pro-life, and fighting on the front lines for abortion to be abolished in America, we're ready. And a grenade turned up at our house, spying drone for a day and a half, a lawsuit threat, decisions being made in a Californian court this week, silly accusation, we're defending ourselves, he's not going to win. A fake article that I supposedly fired someone for being gay, which framed me as anti-LGBTQ, which I even got emails from giant companies saying we were going to hire you, but until you actually say that you're not anti-LGBTQ, we're
Oh my goodness.
deplatforming you.
Wow.
And also, Rob, finally being kicked out of a major bank in America in April 2019. They froze my credit cards, my debit cards, credit line. They gave me 30 days to move my money. And that was it. I mean, that's been the 2 years that, even though the counseling, and this is really beautiful to be able to be transparent about, the counseling I went through was not pertaining to direct activities or struggles of 2019, 2020, as much as realizing that there were issues that I never addressed over the last 20 years of my life, wherein 6 hours of the 10 hours of my counseling were actually directly pertained to people who betrayed me and stabbed me in the back over the last 20 years that I never really got counsel for. So God uses, Rob, dentists for your teeth and psychologists for your brain. You can't just pray things away.
No.
That's been, I know it's a big answer and it's a heavy answer, but that's the true answer in full of how my last 2 years have been.
Well, wow, I wasn't expecting how much you've gone through. I know there's a weightiness attached to the influence you have, but thanks for being so transparent. I did watch a couple of your recent videos, and you mentioned that addictions are up 50%, especially over the last 2 years, just with people coping
Or
with the onslaught of COVID isolation, what have you. Um, what advice would you have for viewers about dealing with the difficult times they're in, and overcoming? Because it might be worth as well, Nick, just rewinding a little bit and sharing a 60-second summary of your story for the everyone will have heard of you, but there'll be a couple maybe who don't know your story, and then you can kind of leap from that into your advice for them and how to overcome.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Let's start with the story. Born in Australia, 1982, to Boris and Dushka, who fled communism Yugoslavia in the 1960s,
Yeah.
who, when they had a home, there was no floor on the home. They slept on dirt floors. Very poor. My mum was 6, my dad was 15, with their families coming to Australia, and they met in Australia. I was their firstborn son after 5 years of marriage. My father actually planted a church 11 months before I was born. My mum was a nurse and was head of a department of the birthing suite of a major hospital in the state of Victoria.
Mm.
But when she was pregnant with her own baby, she got so excited that in the 3 sonograms, they forgot to double check that I had 10 fingers and 10 toes. And so God completely blinded them. I mean, are you serious? And then I came out and I said, surprise. And the doctor said, we are so sorry that he's not going to walk. Well, today I walked, that he's not going to go to school. Well, they didn't know that my mum would actually challenge the state education department of Victoria to not segregate me, but integrate me as a special needs child into the mainstream school system in 1988-89, which was successfully done.
Mm.
Um, Little did anyone know what this little boy with no arms and legs would achieve, including myself. Went to school, prevalent bullying, the unwanted attention in any public arena. My mom and dad had a choice, either to coddle me and keep me out, or just to go through what they needed to see me go through at a young age to prepare me for the world, including not giving me anything I wanted, in the context of them never buying me anything except for a birthday present. We never had a Christmas tree growing up, never got Christmas gifts. And if I wanted something apart from my birthday gift, I'd have to earn money vacuuming the floor to then save up money that taught me that I did have dignity. I could achieve something, that I'm not a victim, but a victor. And I got to take matters into my own hands to be thankful to God that for what I do have, instead of being angry with what I don't have. And instead of focusing what I can't do, focus on what I can do. So I accelerated in my learning, especially as a mathematician, chess player, what God allowed me to go through in the lack of limbs. People often joke around me in different ways that God's now giving me more oxygen in my brain more than anybody else in the blood that goes through my brain, where I'm very mathematical. I'm OCD mathematical. Abstract thinking to the max.
Mm.
Whereas a teenager, I was an options trader, a day options trader at age 17, real estate investor at age
Ooh.
19, graduated at 21 as an accountant and financial planning graduate degree. So graduated from a mathematical spine. Many people don't know that.
Right.
But going back to the story where, okay, I was great at math, but what else? What about my life? And at age 8, I really doubted that there was a good plan for my life. I heard about the love of God, heard my dad preach about this loving God. Very confusing,
Yeah.
very contradictory to what I was feeling about this loving God.
Mm.
And I actually, based on what I knew, what I felt, and what I foresaw in my life, nothing was worth living for. And I was actually a burden to my parents more than anything. And I was going to be bullied for the rest of my life. That no woman would ever want to marry me, and I'd never be a good father. And all of this to say, I tried to commit suicide at age 10 by trying to drown myself in my bathtub. And while I was trying to figure out how much do you swallow before you breathe in the water, the third time rolling over, I was stopped by the mercy of God by one visual that flashed in my mind of seeing my mum and my dad crying at my grave, wishing they could have done something more. So I realized that would have been worse for them and given them a lifetime of burden and guilt and problem and a hole in their heart that could never be replaced. And so I decided to stay by the grace of God. Age 13, love football, the real football, not the NFL out here in America. I'm a US citizen now as well, but the real football, right? I love soccer,
What's your
played soccer.
What's your team?
I knew you were going to ask me that. You know, I've changed over the years, and I won't tell you how many times I changed, but I landed and will finish on Chelsea.
Good choice. Good
Yeah,
choice.
thank you, thank you. Um, and so we used to watch a lot of that. And I was playing soccer, hurt my foot, couldn't walk for 3 weeks because I sprained my foot so bad. And I realized I have a choice either to be angry for what I don't have, arms and legs, or that little foot. Age 15, though, my life dramatically changed when I realized that when Jesus came to a blind man and said he was born that way so that the works of God can be shown, and he got healed. The healing, the miracle itself didn't change me. What changed me was Jesus wasn't asked by the blind man, "What's your plan?" I mean, if someone's putting mud in my face, I would say, "Who are you? What do you want? What's your plan?"
Yeah.
And he didn't. And that changed my life, where I realized if God gave me the plan, then why do I need faith? Isn't it the epiphany of faith itself that you trust him without the plan? That despite what you feel, despite what you see, despite what you know in the physical, that you actually trust in the supernatural God who did know your name before the earth began,
Yeah.
that allowed problems in your life, not that he caused my disability, sickness, disease, or cancer or death itself,
Mm.
but understanding that what the enemy tried to use for bad, God could turn into good.
Mm.
And whether I have arms and legs here on earth, Rob, I have a pair of shoes in my closet just in case he gives me arms and legs miraculously. I have driving gloves in my closet just in case he gives me arms and legs. One of the first things I want to do is drive a car, a very fast car, um, with arms and legs. But
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for them. And so it's the disabilities of the heart, the mind, the spirit, and the soul, which has nothing to do with arms and legs itself. And my janitor at 17 years old, when I was at high school, said, "You're going to be a worldwide speaker, and I want to organize your first speech." And people were touched. I got open doors to speak.
Yeah.
I did a DVD. That's how you went viral in the 2000.
Oh
And
yes.
black marketed was a good thing. No one even knows what burning of a DVD is or a black marketed thing of DVDs. So we're
Absolutely.
talking 20 years ago, right? Um, and that DVD went viral. It went everywhere around the world.
Yes.
And I've now met 24 presidents, 21 presidents, spoken in front of 10 governments. The largest audience was 800,000 people in Ukraine. in 2017 with 52.7 million people watching live with no advertising interruption, hearing me preach a gospel, and of 800,000 people, 400,000 committed their life to Jesus Christ right there and then. So it's been an incredible ride. 10 years of marriage with Kanae, 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls. And we're so delighted to try and do what God has asked us to do righteously and without fear.
Yes.
And it gets hot, Rob, when you're standing in front of the gates of hell and redirect traffic. In fact, a lot of people say, well, just come to God and He's going to bless your life and everything's going to be smooth. I actually say that's totally wrong.
Opposite.
It'll be the opposite. If everything's going smooth, you might want to recheck where you actually think your philosophy is of this loving God that allows you to go through things, especially when you're in war.
Yeah.
People don't understand that we're not here to be blessed, but to actually go to war in the spirit. So anyway, um, I'm not religious, but I love Jesus and I know Him, and He's changed my life. And so, in any way, shape, or form that I can talk about anti-bullying on the school circuit, anytime that I can talk about the value of life,
Mm.
all life, anytime that I can share my entrepreneurial experiences, I just try to help people find hope.
I love that, and that's all, of course, before you hit 40 years old. And I love that because a lot of Christians, I think they're signing up to a trip on a cruise line and not a battleship. Do you ever find, because you've been through so much, you can look at and I'm saying this, let's say whiny Christians, or people that adopt learned helplessness. Do you find a low tolerance for those kind of people, or is there a sense in which, no, we're all on our own journey, because you've overcome so much, and the last 2 years, yes, they've been difficult, but I mean, you're probably looking at it and thinking, I've been through worse.
Look, so on a scale of pain, first on an individual basis,
Yeah.
I believe it's worse being in a broken home than having no arms and legs.
Mm.
I believe it's way harder uh, losing a son or a daughter or finding out that she was raped than having no arms, no legs. Okay. Um, so on that level, I have compassion and awareness. On the other level is a righteous wrath to kick the church in the face, to wake him up from a
Yeah.
coma that we're in.
Yeah.
Wherein, for instance, in America, we have 100,000 churches who um, represent $480 billion worth of debt for buildings. And we have 500,000 children waiting for an American family to either foster them or adopt them.
Mm.
500,000. We're all talking about ending abortion here. It's the number one topic here. And Roe v. Wade will not be turned over. The Supreme Court will reiterate what they would have thought in their interpretation of 1973 moving onwards, plus other cases that Supreme Court has never taken a side of abortion or not,
Mm.
which goes back to the states in America, which people are absolutely blinded right now in even the essence of what are we going to do with 3,600 babies that are not being aborted? Those are the real numbers, Rob. California don't even count these surgical abortions as an abortion. That's they're in 70, yeah, that's they're in 77 million. Okay. So it's not 2,363 a day approximately, it's 3,600 a day. So what are we going to do with 970,000 abortions that will not happen, right? If we can't even take care of 500,000 kids.
Yeah.
So is that whole understanding of us waking up to the reality that it is an evil talk when your pastor says, come to God, give to the church, and you're going to have a blessed life.
Yeah.
Now, look, God honors obedience and sacrifice,
Sure.
but we are here only for a vapor compared to billions of years. wherein I think we haven't yet really engaged in mission to the point where us parents haven't engaged in a prayerful routine that is evident even in our own home.
Oh no.
That is more of an engagement of prayer other than God bless this food, thank you for our day, keep us healthy, and bless those people that have no food. That's not a relationship with Jesus Christ.
No.
That is not a somebody who is saved by the blood of Jesus, who has a daily relationship with Jesus, who actually reads the Bible and actually understands the importance of teaching the children the importance of the Bible. For anything other than that is not rock but quicksand. And so that therein is the falling away of the family unit, plus also lastly, sorry Rob to say this, but we are righteously angry at the church who has also been blinded, not only the Supreme Court on what we just said for 50 years, but we've been a crippled now, disabled church, paralyzed from the neck down. That we can't talk about the wall of national security that's allowed 2.5 million people across our border,
Yeah.
that has quadrupled human trafficking in Texas,
Quadruple.
starting January 5, 2021. And we can't talk about pro life without talking about human trafficking, without talking about the wall, without talking about the foster care and adoption. And we can't talk about pro life without talking about PTSD post abortion. We
Yeah.
can't talk about pro life until we actually tell our Gen Z members of our church, if they're still there, to keep their pants on. And we can't talk about human trafficking until we actually ask the church honestly, how many of you are addicted to pornography?
Yes. Such a good point.
These are the sledgehammers that we're dealing with and swallowing bricks. And this is where we're at, for real.
So, I hear people say all the time, oh, we're not dealing with these issues, or I'm not speaking about these issues because I'm not an evangelist. But Paul makes very clear that even if you're not given the gift of evangelism, we're meant to do the work of an evangelist. So you're really
Great Commission. You're part of the Great Commission.
100%.
Love God and love your neighbor as if they're going to hell. Forget about loving your enemy for a second,
Yeah.
who you don't want to love, who you need to pray for, who you need to forgive. And if you don't forgive your enemy, you're going to hell,
So do you
according to
think,
the Bible that I'm reading. Loving your neighbor, loving your neighbor as yourself is helping them understand that there is more to this life than meets the eye. It's more than existing. It's more than coexisting. It's more than just a job. It's more than getting your family financially secure.
yeah.
None of the security and the pleasure of this world will ever satisfy the soul that God has designed for you for eternity until you actually fill that void with that. You're not rich.
So do you think, Nick, the reason there's a lack of urgency in church culture is because we're not talking about the reality of hell and the issues going on right now, pro-life? I'd love to talk in a moment about this proposed life bank
Yeah, yeah.
you're pioneering. But do you think that's why there's a lack of urgency right now? Because we're preaching one thing from a pulpit, and the reality outside the walls of the church is there's a lot more stuff we need to be addressing and dealing with.
Here's a question. How many people go to church every Sunday of their life and have no idea how to summarize who they were before Christ and how God transformed them after meeting Christ in 3 minutes?
Yeah, yeah. With
Let's start there. How many scriptures are we actually memorizing?
mm,
How many of us actually felt like we backslid because we were actually dependent on our church structure to be fed the word of God, and we're dependent on our pastor to be fed the word of God? Do you not have a Bible at home? Has your church not actually taught you how to study the Bible without your pastor?
yeah.
What does that mean on a holistic approach if your church is never able to open up their doors tomorrow?
And you know what, Nick? Dr. Artie Kendall recently said in a survey that was done, the average church pastor in this day and age prays for less than 5 minutes per day. And if there's no power in private, how on earth are we going to shift culture and make a difference with a lot of this stuff?
So this is where the remnant, definition of the remnant, a small amount of people who are not in a coma, who are, you asked me, I like the way that you said it. I don't remember now the words that you said, Rob, but you did say that you basically have given up on some of the compartmentalized Christianity. And
Yeah.
let me just say, I'm sick and tired of talking to the church.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry, but I give up on the idea of us ever becoming one. We don't even know what that looks like.
yeah, a
And if
unity.
we didn't become one in 2020, and we didn't have the balls to keep the doors of the churches open in 2020, I give up. So what am I doing? God has convicted me to then not try wake up the sleeping,
Mm,
but to unite those who are very well aware of what's going on. And it is that remnant, the Gideon's army of those,
yeah.
where we are now investing that time instead of trying to wake up the church, work with those who are not asleep to unite in power and influence. And that's what's happening in America. The clouds are breaking. I'm sorry. I'm actually the least optimist person in my whole circle of friends since January 2020. I was in Oman in
Yeah.
January 2020. I was watching world news in January 2020. I emailed everyone, get out of the stock market and stock up on food. And I bought my mask in January 2020.
That's
I
insane.
was ahead in April 2020. April, 2 weeks into it, I told my staff, California is not going to allow me to come back to California without a vaccine card. Watch. In 2019, November, we said we're out of California because of mandate vaccines for the first time ever. Mandate vaccines July 2019.
Yeah.
Induced bankruptcy of our farming system. Induced collapse of California in front of my eyes. We saw the ripening process in 2019. We left. Texas, I say this now, there's a remnant around the world, a remnant in America, but the remnant that we are really focusing in on here is understanding that we do have constitutional rights
Yeah.
in seeing what's going on in the era right now that we've never seen before of a cancel culture. Me firsthand victim in April 2019 before anybody put together those words,
Yeah.
cancel culture. Me receiving a letter from the bank saying we've reviewed who you are as a customer,
It's outrageous.
and we don't want anything to do with you. Find another bank. Brilliant. Thank you so much. After 15 years of relationship with that bank, major bank, then finding out that most major banks, Rob, this is where the power comes of the remnant. If we're not the people of God, then who? Why are we so? Why are we waiting for evil people to stop doing evil things?
Yes.
Why are we so distracted about reporting and crossing our arms as like the victim um, of evil people doing evil things and waiting for the storm to pass instead of understanding that this is a storm that's not going anywhere? It's just a poise closer to Revelations, wherein the sky's not falling and Jesus ain't come back next week. Let me tell you, Rob, Jesus ain't come back next week because Japan don't know who God is. North
Right.
Korea don't know who Jesus is. Jesus ain't come back till that actually happens.
Mhm.
Whoa, big surprise, newsflash. So we understand then they're in from the financial ecosystem to the media ecosystem to the governmental ecosystem. Those three of the seven systems that actually change the world. We here in America, Rob, have understood what's happening in California that's we're not going to allow to happen in Texas because
Yeah.
we've realized the importance of engaging in those three pillars to hold America as America and not to become a China. Literally, we are on the brinks of an induced communism, socialism, where I actually predict that half of America will fall deep
Mm.
into socialism and will never get out to the point of there'll be a complete polarization of day and night between America, where the United States of America will not be United States of America. It'll be a coalition of two separate United States of the America.
This this is amazing. The kind of the panoramic view you've got of it all, Nick. I think a lot of it's to do as well with how much you've actually seen. I mean, I'm noticing patterns. Whether whether I'm interviewing yourself or Dr. John Maxwell or Dr. Caroline Leaf, people that aren't necessarily in church every single Sunday, but they get exposed to all these different facets of life and what's really going on in the world. One thing I've noticed is people like yourself, you're allowing you to be the answer to the prayers you're praying by taking action. And so, can you talk a little bit about this proposed pro-life bank that I want you to talk about it from a blank canvas perspective. No one's heard about it. What are you doing? What action are you taking to attack some of these evil things going on in the world? And what's your plan?
A wonderful, wonderful story. In '08, God gave me a vision of me being steward of 400 banks in Africa. I saw a vision of the last days and sub-Sahara Africa, a united 10 nations, would actually basically divorce UN evil money. We all know that China's bought up all of Africa already on defaulted loans to improve their export, import, airports, everything.
Yeah,
It's now owned by China. Chinese police is everywhere. The bottom line is in 2008, God told me very clear, and I'm very careful with what I say, that I'm going to be a median, a conduit, a vessel in his hands that people will trust in the financial ecosystem.
yeah,
And we're going to reset Africa. This is 2008. Never told a soul. I even saw the whole vision of people walking into the banks, getting healed, exorcisms, 24-hour praise and worship, church happening at the bank. Didn't tell anybody. 2015, I spoke at a fundraising gala for a nonprofit organization called Network Medical in Santa Barbara, which is the most liberal-ish city of America, top 10, where I met Betsy N. Gray, who was CEO, who asked me to be a speaker, and we said no 6 times. And she knew that she heard from God, I'm going to be the speaker. Long story short, I became the speaker, and I met her waiting at that point for years to see who would God use that I can partner with in America for the pro-life platform that God told me also in 2002 as a 19-year-old when I got ordained as a minister of the gospel. Nick, I'm going to send you to America. 2 platforms, anti-bullying and pro-life, apart from preaching the gospel. And her persistence and her faith
yeah,
convinced me she's the one. 3 years of relationship, friendship. She's my spiritual mom. I'm a spiritual son. She got a donation. God said, find a bank that does not give to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is the biggest abortion provider in America. And there was not one bank that makes profit off deposited monies, then philanthropically under social responsibility gives to Planned Parenthood.
mm,
If you Google how much has Mark Zuckerberg given to abortion organizations, pretty interesting if you're not for abortion. And so
yeah,
again, not be surprised by doing evil if we felt like abortion is evil, right? So understanding that, God then said to her, start my bank called Pro-Life Bank. She called me up. She said, Nick, I'm starting God's bank. I said, it's great. She said, it's his bank. I said, it's great. She said, it's going to be the Noah's Ark of the financial ecosystem of the world. I said, that's great. Now, prior to 2020 and cancel culture being prevalent and even known as a terminology here in America, where banks are literally kicking out billionaires, left, right, center, find another bank. There is somebody that I've known who's actually been kicked out of 8 banks. 8 banks. I got kicked out of a bank. We have no other choice but to make a bank that will not cancel you because you don't believe the way we may believe. And
Yeah.
so pro-life bank, first of all, not proposed, pro-life bank proposed, God willing, will be purchasing and opening next year in 2022, somewhere between spring and summer-ish.
Yeah.
We're right now looking for the finishing of the funding of the seed money. We're vetting right now multiple banks to target as a purchase target. We're having a second meeting with something that actually looks really promising. Without me doing any real effort, except for 12 hours of my time doing interviews, Rob, we have 40,000 people who gave us their email address at prolifebank.com saying, I'm waiting. Give me the next announcement. I'm a VP of XYZ Bank. I'm sick and tired of them doing what they're doing with environmental social governance. It's disgusting, the FDIC and all the changes that's happening right now. We are scared. All our friends are scared. We're about to be canceled. Where do we bank? If we have no bank, then how do we function? So all the alternative, from social media to GoFundMe alternatives, we're whistleblowers on Give, Send, Go. Give, Send, Go. Again, an alternative. So I'm now a 10% holder of a company where we have our own servers, exclusive of Amazon, Google, Microsoft. You will not be canceled on that technological platform. All churches are on the mercy of Amazon, Google,
Yeah.
right? We're moving them
Okay.
from server to social media to media content, but especially the financial ecosystem. Take away our financial ecosystem. Tell me if we're not going back to Amish bartering, period. That we may not be forced to go to sovereign land in America on Native American soil. I'm sorry, but these are the discussions that we've been having. And so, on the financial ecosystem, Pro Life Bank proposed. We've already got trademarked Pro Life FinTech. We've been asked by an organization I don't want to say, millions of associations of Christians who are saying the same thing. Who's our global fintech? So, first of all, in Dallas, there'll be a one brick and mortar fintech, national, communicative, plus engaging, an association of Christian bankers where we'll have to work together. So one bank beats all. It's a remnant, the Gideon's army in America, to protect them. Now, not to say that we're not going to serve anyone else. If you don't believe the way that we believe, we're still going to allow you to be a customer with us, period. We'll not judge you. We'll gladly take your money, gladly not cancel you unless the government says you're a criminal or laundry
Yeah.
money or a terrorist organization. Um, Apart from that, gladly work with you. Gladly also, though, say that we will never give a dollar to Planned Parenthood, not one of our, not social responsibility, kingdom responsibility dollars of philanthropic stewardship will never go to kill an unborn child,
Mm.
but to give 50% away of net profits to Judeo Christian aligned nonprofit organizations that not only helps ministries like crisis pregnancy centers, but the veterans, the foster care, feeding the hungry, giving a home to the homeless, all these things that God would actually biblically aligned be blessing. That's where Pro Life Bank propose is going. Rob, it's going to be huge. It's
Yeah.
going to be huge. We are on the conservative level, in the millions of dollars that we are looking at going toward in the future. Just in our raise to purchase a bank plus the equity for that, it would be a first for America's eyes. It would
How,
be a first for America's eyes.
it's phenomenal. There'll be people right now listening, going, "Sign me up!" Like, how do people get involved? How do people get find out more about this, Nick?
Yeah, so look, we can't talk about any investment opportunities whatsoever. But right now, go to prolifebank.com. I'm not insinuating that your viewers either, I have to say some legal jargon,
Of
that
course.
they're open to some legal things or investment opportunities whatsoever.
Yeah.
This is the bottom line of bottom lines. Please go to prolifebank.com. give us your email address, join the 40,000 people who are actually getting announcements that we're not putting out anywhere else.
Amazing.
Because there's a reason why we're doing it that way.
Yeah.
And so check it out. Come into the fold of the remnant that understands the signs of our times. And even if you're global, there are going to be things pertaining to you that you can engage in, can know about, and be foretelling next year of the announcements coming that we can't announce right now. So go to prolifebank.com, sign up immediately. And also understand, Rob, that the Nick V Network startup of translation technology that uses open architecture of AI 27 translating engines, we are putting together a machine outside of Pro Life Bank. There's two startups that I'm doing. A machine where we will select who ought to have a voice that is not algorithmed on Facebook or Instagram,
So important.
nor regulated because of our lack of translation methodology, especially if we're put in a corner to put a post up that's only live, thus they're in only English, thus they're in me losing 70% off the bat of
Yeah.
my following. nickv.network, please get connected. There are some exciting things that are happening on nickv.network. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
We've got world-class people that will be curated expertise in content that the world needs to hear, including the stance against a mandate of vaccines, standing against the mandate of mandates that are being spoken of in the world. This is the remnant that will have a non-canceling platform, 36 language translatable portal that is literally going to be a very big revolution in digital communication for any of us who don't just want real news and not just laced Christians,
Yeah.
but literally the remnant.
Nick, you're on the front line of pioneering this stuff, and most pioneers suffer the most pain. My question is twofold. Firstly, how does it work in your mind? I'm sure it's laced with prayer, but you're so forward thinking as an evangelist as well. So, firstly, talk me through that a little bit. But secondly, what questions do we as Christians need to be asking that we're not asking? And why aren't we asking them? Because you're already there. You're already 20 years ahead of what people won't even be thinking about until 2030, 2040.
Let me qualify it more for your viewers.
Yeah.
My mum was 6 when the government knocked on their door and kicked them out of their own home and shot all their farm animals in 1960.
Yeah.
Communism. We really believe that Revelations is real and it's coming. I've lived almost experiences to cover 3 lifetimes.
Yeah. And then
I've watched the UN like a hawk since 2000. Like a hawk.
Mm.
Australia is second in line of when the UN speaks. Australia and Canada hand in hand say, how high are we jumping? From gender, monetary, investing, all these policies that start on the UN, WEF, WHO,
Yeah.
and everyone's friends at arm's length because they got all their portions of the world, i.e. China, Russia, and the rest of the world, the 70 people. When you really believe that Illuminati is real and you see the feds and the everything now not being backed up and America's about to tank and the money's going to nothing, hyperinflation, all induced,
Yeah.
all ridiculous. All of this is induced in a lab where China's not even sanctioned. I mean, it's just, you know too much and you can't unsee what you see. So just to qualify that, it's not just that I've seen the rise and fall of Latin America and Africa rise and fall on the prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
There's one lifetime of experience.
Yes.
seen it with my own eyes. Um, a lot. So this now seeing where we're at, what is my message? My message is that it's already too late, that in the flesh we can do anything.
Yes. Yeah.
It's done. It's already done. But it's not too late for the remnant who believe in the Holy Spirit and those that would be under the shadow of his wing as they now obey and sacrifice and get on the horse that's going to take us into the battlefield and to get in front of the front line.
Mm.
We have failed at discipling and teaching people the Word of God and a relationship with God out of the institution of the church. We have failed to understand that we are all evangelists, and if we just preach to our neighbor once a year, one neighbor 1 year, then if you actually preached the gospel to 15 people in your lifetime, Jesus would be back by now.
Wow, that
Almost,
is a stat.
almost. Um,
That's
we are the generation that will be the harshest judged generation because we have, look at us. I'm doing a Zoom call thing with you. What the heck? Jesus didn't have even an airplane.
no.
We didn't have the flying grasshoppers. So here we are.
Nick, do you think
Here we are.
do you think it's incumbent upon Christians? I mean, I'm reading a book at the moment about the metaverse, NFTs, cryptocurrency, all the things that are happening that aren't going to be adopted by the majority for quite some time. And of course, that's just looking in the financial realm. But do you think it's incumbent upon us as Christians to step out of our comfort zone and actually come face to face with a lot of the changes that are going to come our way? And how do we disciple through that?
You
My
can't.
fear
You
is that.
can't. You can't. You just can't. You can't disciple it. The only thing you can do right now, Rob, is to show the alternative. The only thing you can do is show what happens when 3 million Texans give $10 a month to help the crisis going on. The only way to actually wake up the church is to show them a group of remnant Christians who are actually making their own cryptocurrency, a global fintech, to show them what could actually happen when you actually train 10 million people to share their story and to go out and share the gospel to, wow, 10 people on a Saturday, one Saturday a month, 100 million people hearing the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's the only way to disciple, is to actually show what the heck he wants us to do. Sorry.
I love it. Sharing your story. And this is my final question as we come into land, Nick. We've covered so much ground.
Lead by example. Just lead by example. That's it. It's done. Got to count the cost. Get ready. Get ready. I think about every day that my wife would be kidnapped. I think about every day that my children would be kidnapped. I think about every single day that anything that I have material, monetary wise, can be swept away. I think about that every day. Do you? I do, because I've counted the cost.
So are
We're
you
not
saying, Nick, are you saying to communicate the good news of Jesus, sharing your story with courage and conviction, it comes down first to counting the cost and then realizing there's a price to pay to see souls saved and people come into relationship with Jesus?
if
Essentially.
you're even so convicted. Yes. God. I mean, what else are we convicted to do? We are
I
so
think that's
off.
another podcast in itself, isn't it?
We are so off.
I think this has been a very challenging conversation, which I love because I think sometimes, we get a lot of affirmation, but not a lot of correction. And I think hopefully this has been a divine adjutant for some people. And I just want to thank you, Nick, for pioneering the way because, as I said, it's a remnant and it's the Gideon's army of 300.
And I'll tell you this. Let me tell you this sentence. Let me tell you this sentence. It's not like this has been on my brain only for 24 months.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
And it's been 5 years ago that I actually approached the largest ministry body in the world, who I won't describe more to for people to then figure out who I'm talking about. I asked them, when do you actually correct the church? And you know what they said? We don't. But I'm called humbly, and you can be bold and confident and humble.
Yeah.
And I tell you, there's a lot of people who correct the church in the Bible, and I count the cost.
The prophets.
Yeah. So I love you. Thank you for being real, dude. And you know, cool.
Yeah, I want to say watch this space, guys, because I think we've got a fruity 2 to 5 years ahead. Especially everything you've shared, all the links will come up as lower thirds on this conversation. Nick, thanks for your time. Thank you for your vision. Thank you for who you are, and I look forward to chatting to you again.
Rob Wall, keep going, mate. Love you all. Take care.